in this section, when you create a face recognizer that will detect faces in images, we will provide through OpenCV. So we install that OpenCV package in our system. So if you have not installed that, make sure this works. So first of all, let's import that. So we have our CV2. So import CV2, that is the notation for OpenCV, and let's run this cell. So everything is fine. Okay, so now we need to create a face recognizer or a machine learning model to be specific. So how can we create that model? So for that, we will, let's say, create a object face recog, and that will be a class that is inside of CV2. We have a cascade classifier. So cascade classifier is a class inside of CV2, and it will take a data that will be used to create this classifier. So if you remember in the machine learning section, if you have not skipped that section, there we learned how to create machine learning models. That is, first of all, when we train our models with training sets, then we train our model, it finds a relationship between the input and the output, then we get some input values, and then it predicts the values, that is the output. So in here, we don't need to pass in the input, that is the images with our faces, or we have our faces underlined, etc. In here, we just need to pass that data that is already done, and we just need to pass that for specific things. So in here, we want to detect faces in images. So that is a data provided or already included with the package, that is OpenCV. So let's detect that. So in your Jupyter Notebook home directory, you need to find Anaconda 3. Instead of that, go to lib, not library, because library is another folder. So you have to go to lib. Inside of that, find site packages. So we have site packages. Inside of that, we have all the packages in Python. So in here, let's find CV2, which we imported. You can see we have CV2. Inside of that, you can see we have data. So as it says, inside of data, we have all the XML data files. So XML data file is similar to JSON or CSV data files we worked with in the data science section, but they are a bit different because they contain some data for each image, which has a face underline, eye underline, nose underline, etc., etc. So we want to detect faces. So for that, we will use this XML file, that is her cascade frontal face default. So this data will be passed to this cascade classifier as an input, and it will train it with that data, that is this XML file, and our model will be created, that is a face recognizer. So let's import this or move this data. You can see this XML data has a lot of numerical values, that is, this data will be just used by this cascade classifier to create our face recognizer. So let's close this for now, and then let's say we want to move this to our home directory, because we don't want to specify all these, that is Anaconda 3, then live, then site packages. We just want to pass in a name and then just import it. So let's select this, our cascade frontal face default. So if you don't want to go through all this, you can just download this from the resources and put this into your Jupyter notebook and just import in your notebook. But let's say you want to do from your system that is already in your system, choose this, hit duplicate, because we want to duplicate it, because let's just keep the original one in the site packages data, and then let's just move this to our home directory. So let's move it to our home, that is this home directory, you can see, and then let's just go to home, and we will find our XML data there. You can see that we have our her cascade frontal face default XML data in here. So let's rename this as well to make it easier to import in our notebook. So let's go to top again and use rename. So let's rename it to something like face recog data. So hit enter and it's renamed. So now we can import that is this face recog XML in our Jupyter notebook. So it's here. So let's import this. So in here we can just specify the name, that is face recog underscore data.xml. So you can name it anything you want, or just pass in the whole directory, that is Anaconda 3 live site packages CV2 data, that XML file. But it's easier to just import that or move that to our Jupyter home directory and then just import it with the name we have specified. So let's run the cell so everything works fine. Yes, we have created a face recognizer that can predict or detect faces in images. Done. So we just use one line of code and just imported it. So basically we have just used 2 lines of code and we just imported this data from the data that was in CV2, and we have created a face recognizer. Well, pretty much it. And now we just need to create or just import our data and pass it to detection. So let's import the data as well. So in here I have a sample image. You can download that from resources, or you can even use your own, but make sure the image or the face in the image should be front, that is facing front, not side. So it will not detect side images, it will only detect faces that are facing front. So it's people JPEG. You can see I have a file in here, so it's really big. So this is the image I'm going to use. So let's keep the scaling which it was. So yeah, so now let's import that as well. So we also learned how to import images. So we have our image and then cv2 dot image read, and the name is peoples. So peoples dot jpeg. So let's import this and let's view this with cv2 as well. So cv2 image show our image with the name, let's say image, and the image variable, and then the weight key. So weight key, so let's just pass nothing, it will work fine. So in here we need to add 2. Let's run the cell and let's open the GUI. You can see that we have a graphical user interface for the image, and the image is really high resolution. That's why we have the whole screen covering the image. So we cannot resize that. So that's a problem, but still it's fine because we just want to look at that we have imported the image successfully. So let's close this. And now before passing this to our data, we need to change this into grayscale. That is, we need to change this into black and white. So we have learned about how to change the color spaces of images as well. So let's do that. So cascade classify works well, or only works when the image is in gray and white. So it just cut off the different colors. We only have gray and white, that is black and white as the colors. So to change the color, let's create another image variable. So image, just let's say we have X image. So input image, we use the X and Y notations, that is input and output, in the data science section. So let's apply that in here as well. So image X cv2 dot convert color, and then let's pass in our image and then specify in which color space we want to change. So we have cv2 dot color change from bgr. So OpenCV always imports images and change the color spaces to bgr. So from bgr to we want to change grayscale. So now let's run the cell. We have changed that into grayscale. So now let's view our image input. So image X, and run the cell. You can see that we have the grayscale image. So now we can pass this to our face recognition that we created in here with cascade classifier and the face recognition data. So see you in the next lesson where we will detect the face in our image.